my question is more the freelance side of things. Several people in the military world, once they retire, they have healthcare generally continued, and that's a big benefit that most salary people continue that route. So can you talk to us about the freelance side of things and maybe some bread and butter types of projects that might have been helpful in that world?
All right, I'm going to try to hit you quickly, and we can dive in with whatever time we have. It's a big deal, right? Like you are taking the initiative to become a business owner as well as a Salesforce professional now. So you got two things going on. The other thing is you are now, I think you have the freedom that you are responsible for the work you get done, but you are also responsible for the work you get done, and you're responsible for finding clients and making sure that there's work in the pipeline. What I will say scares people about freelancing, there's a lot of misconceptions about pretty much everything in life. And with freelancing, one of the big misconceptions is, oh my gosh, well, when one project is ending, I got to find a new one, and that's scary. And it's like, that's not usually how it works. The holy grail of freelancing is something called support agreements or managed services agreements. And the way these work is you typically have a 1-year contract, and you don't contract for 40 hours a week. You contract for like 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week with a given client. You work for them 20 to 40 hours a month, whatever it is. And the really cool thing about managed services agreements are that, say it's 10 hours a week is what they have you booked for, 40 hours a month. If you work 40 hours a month, you get paid for 40 hours a month. If you work 50 hours a month, obviously you need to let them know you're going to go over. You get paid an overage for the additional 10 hours. If you work 30 hours a month, you get paid for 40 hours. No questions asked, because it is a managed services agreement and they're contracted to pay you. Now, what I did is every Friday, I would send a weekly update, and I would say, this is how many hours I've used. This is how we're tracking. We are 25% through the month, but we are only 15% through the hours utilization. We are tracking to not use all of your hours. Think about that as we go into next week. You know what happens after about 6 months in a managed services agreement? They create a rule in their email to just go ahead and send that weekly status report to a archive folder, because they don't want to see it every week. Once they see it every single Friday and they trust the work you're doing and they like the work you're doing and you're communicative and they like you, it turns out that they don't really care about that status report. So you're sending it anyway to cover yourself. You're letting them know. And if you come in under, you've done your part. And if you go over, you've obviously communicated with them. And if you stay right on track, then awesome, and everybody's happy. What this causes is it gives you a foundation. So in my career as a freelancer for about 5 years, I had 4 managed services agreements, and those range from about 7 hours a week to 15 hours a week. And at any given time, I would have 3. And then when one was going away, sometimes I'd have 4 for a minute, maybe a couple of months, and then I'd switch back to 3 as one was phasing out. But what I found is if I did good work, I could keep a managed services agreement. Some of those managed services agreements ran the full 5 years that I was doing it. If you do good work and you provide value, they never want to get rid of you. They love having you there because you create so much value for their company and you're a trusted resource. So do good work, and you're not going to have to worry about like this churn of projects constantly. I can talk about, I can dive into anything as far as it's harder. So you'll hear me say a lot that like landing a Salesforce job takes work, but it can absolutely be done repetitively. There's a clear path to landing a Salesforce job. I'm not going to say it's easy. There's a clear path. Freelancing isn't as easy as landing a Salesforce job. There's a lot of imposter syndrome, even for me, being like 10 years in. I still had nerves every time I got a new client and I had to learn their business processes and put together statements of work and contracts and send them an estimated quote and those kind of things. But if you feel confident in your Salesforce skills, you can absolutely be making double 6 figures as a freelancer. Because I was making 200K plus working part-time. And my rate was only like $150 an hour, which is pretty inexpensive in today's terms. So you can absolutely make double 6 figures. I would wager that you could make triple 6 figures even as an independent consultant. I do have a free freelancing guide. I'm happy to provide a link for that, but there's a lot of nuances of freelancing, landing clients, how to have the right documentation in place to like those statements of work, contracts, non-disclosure agreements, end user training, administrator backend training. There's a lot of documentation you need to facilitate running projects from start to finish. Requirement documents, design documents, solution documents. You want everything documented because it covers you and it creates transparency. So I could go on forever about freelancing. There's a few different strategies to landing your first clients. One major piece of advice I would have for anybody go in this direction: don't get greedy early on. Anytime you're introducing yourself to a new client, I've met with a lot of people who they want to get like 200, 300-hour projects to kick off their engagement with a client. They want the biggest possible project. My recommendation was always understand their needs, understand their requirements, try to get them to sign on like a 20, 30, 40-hour project, and cherry pick the stuff that you know they're visually going to see the biggest impact. Because then when they do a small project with you, number one, you get to evaluate if you want to keep working with them. It's a choice. Just because somebody's giving you money doesn't mean you have to do anything. Number two, it allows you to have maximum impact for the lowest hours. So say you did 40 hours and people are just like, wow, that's incredible. I had no idea we could have an amazing dashboard like that, amazing reports. I had no idea we could automate that process, and you changed lives in 40 hours. They're going to want you to work for them forever. That's when you can hook them with that. Instead of doing a 200-hour contract up front, do a 40-hour and then get them hooked for 10 hours a week, which is 520 hours on a one-year contract. And you got yourself a great client that you want to work with. You were able to test the waters first, and now you've got long-term stable income for yourself as a freelancer.